Welcome back to the Running Y Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Solinsky, aka the Running Y Mom. Today, we have another wonderful guest, Jordan Mauger. We're exploring his incredible journey of parenthood, exploring the beautiful complexities of adoption and the joys of being an LGBTQ parent. But before we jump in, I want to introduce you to our guest, Jordan. He is a supporter of the New Hope Celebrates, an organization that strives to create a vibrant and inclusive community for the LGBTQ individuals and their allies. But Jordan's story extends far beyond his involvement with the organization. Jordan and his husband embarked on a remarkable journey that led them to the immense joy of becoming parents. Through open adoption, they welcomed not just one, but two children into their lives. Their son, born in September 2015, and their daughter, born in August 2017, share a special bond as not only adopted siblings, but also as half-siblings genetically. Throughout their journey, Jordan and his husband have maintained a close relationship with their children's birth mother, fostering a sense of connection and love. Jordan's story is a testament to the power of open adoption, the strength of family bonds, and the beauty that can be found in embracing diverse paths to parenthood. Today, we have the privilege of exploring Jordan's experience. We'll explore the joys, challenges, and lessons learned along the way. So grab a glass of your favorite vintage, find a cozy spot, and get ready to be inspired by Jordan's remarkable journey. Without further ado, let's raise a glass and give a warm welcome to Jordan. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, Samantha. It's a pleasure.
I'm so excited. And we were just talking about before we started how we realized, even though I didn't quite know who you were, we did take an awesome yoga class together last summer, which
yes.
Hopefully I'll be able to get
friends.
Yes. Old friends, new friends. Old friends that didn't know we were friends.
Exactly.
All right. To start off each episode, we have our wine, and win of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine or drink, vent about something that has been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So let's start off. What is your wine, W-I-N-E, of the week?
So I'm always pretty much leaning into white wine, big on Pinot Grigio, and my old standby is Santa Margarita.
That is,
especially in the summer. There's nothing much like that. Like having it as like a pre-dinner cocktail, having it along with dinner. It's refreshing, and it hits all the notes I need it to hit for me. So
I agree. I love that. That is definitely a staple. And what is your WHINE of the week?
I would say probably, and thankfully it's gotten a lot better, but within the last 7 days, the surplus of precipitation has been, not only is it not great for just environmental and your mood, but also just has posed some issues in my life in terms of it flooding and all the things that come along with that. And we had the joy of a nice brown pool for a couple days. So, but all things considered, blessed and highly favored life here. But that would be like, if anything, that would be the thing that was the
I was saying last Saturday when we had the flash flood, we were at Peddler's Village, and I was thinking about coming up River Road on the way home, but like had to stop in Newtown. So I was like, let me just go that way. And thankfully we didn't, because it got rocked. I mean, it was so bad. It's scary. I don't know if that's ever happened like that badly, the flash floods.
I know. And I mean, talk about perspective building with everything that happened with the lives lost and whatnot. And because you hear those stories happening in other places in the country, even, or in other countries entirely. But this is, right here in Bucks County. And it's just heartbreaking, the whole story. So my heart goes out to that family, everyone who lost somebody, and all the police and all the services that are out there, like still on the search for those who are missing. So it's really heartbreaking as a parent. You can't help but like put yourself in that scenario and be like, oh my gosh, I would be destroyed. So
because I was with both of my kids. My husband is a police officer, and he was working, but he's not in that area. They didn't even get any rain. And I just said to him, like, what do I do if I'm in that situation with the kids? I don't know what the answer is. And he's like, there's just not really anything you can do. You just have to hope and pray, I guess. I don't know. He didn't have an answer, which is kind of even scarier, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's nature is a beautiful thing, but it also can be a really
Yeah.
scary thing. And like water is not something we think about as being, or even
Right.
rain being overly dangerous, but it can really develop into something that could be. So it's always good. Never drive into standing water is like the one. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he did say that. He said that was definitely something important. So, all right. So let's switch to a
Yeah.
positive. What is your win of the week?
My win of the week. So that it's somewhat related to the other wine of the week in that we hosted a pool party this past weekend that the forecast did not look promising. It rained all day on Saturday. It was a
Mm-hmm.
nighttime pool party, and we were like just fingers crossed, what's going to happen, because I mean that's kind of puts a damper on a pool party when it's pouring rain. And it
Yeah,
just so happened that right when the party, right as it was scheduled to begin, the rain stopped, and so
that's
it was a bit of a mudslide, a little bit like a slip and slide in the backyard, so to speak. But the skies were clear. Everyone was able to get there safely, have a great time, and I'm sure you've hosted things before. It's such a time and financial investment ahead of time. So when
mm-hmm.
it's so dependent on weather, it is very anxiety inducing. So we got through
Yeah.
it. It all worked out. And now we can take a break from parties for a little bit.
It is. I was just actually also talking about that because we had our son's first birthday at Shady Brook Farms,
Okay.
and it was so weather dependent that was like, we're like, what if it rains? Like,
Mhm.
we're just gonna have to have 100+ people come to our house, which we're not really like, banking
That's
on,
a big
but
day party. Good for you.
yeah. I mean, our family is huge alone, but then we are lucky to have so many friends, and they have tons of kids. But yeah, and it was like so hot in the middle as we were singing "Happy Birthday" to my son. Um, it starts like, drizzling down, and I'm like, oh gosh, he's just like loving life, like trying to get the cake as the rain's falling. A huge mid-party thunderstorm, like torrential downpour. But then it ended up completely clearing up within like 30 minutes or so. And some people had to leave because they were soaked, but we stayed till the end, which was nice.
That's perfect. I mean, talk about a memory. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Everyone's like, we won't ever forget his birthday party.
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah.
Right.
But I understand this. I mean, I was looking like 10+ days in advance. I'm like, is it going to rain?
Uh-huh.
Is it going to rain? It's
That's
so
the thing. You can
stressful.
drive yourself insane looking at it
Hmm.
in that time span leading up to it, because it is the weather. It literally is well known to change on a whim. But like you can
Yeah.
look at that percentage and you'll see it go up one day and down one day.
Down.
It's
Yeah.
like a whole emotional roller coaster.
We always do, in our family, my parents are Catholic and they always put the Blessed Mother out. They're like, we put the Blessed Mother out for you. I'm like, okay, that's definitely going to make it not rain, but
Yes, exactly. Listen, every little bit
yeah,
helps.
yeah. All right. So what is one struggle and one thing you are most proud of one struggle you've overcome leading to where you are, and one thing that you're most proud of in your life?
So, it's an interesting question, because when it comes to struggle, I feel like it's really easy to focus in on like those little menial things that
Hmm.
ultimately, in the grand scheme of life and the world, are not that big of a deal. And I will
Hmm.
say that I have been incredibly blessed in my entire life, in terms of my upbringing, in terms of the support I've received from family and friends. My parents were wonderful, wonderful people, continue to be wonderful people who supported me from the day I was born and never questioned anything that I was. And from that perspective, like I can't thank them enough for kind of setting me up with a foundation to succeed, because the thing that I've learned both on reflection with my childhood and also just what I'm doing as a parent myself is that so much of your future success lies in how good about yourself you feel when you're a child, and how much you feel like that person that you are is great and has a purpose and is accepted and loved and supported. And so I say that to say that struggles come and go, but if you have that strong foundation, which I was blessed to have, it really set me up for having that perspective moving forward. And then that continued through, life with like great friends and family, and this family that, I've built myself. So struggles, yes, they come and go. That's the scheduling with the kids and balancing any kind of social life of your own and work demands and all of those things. And the kids picked up a bug this week right when we were supposed to go do this activity. Those things, it's part of life. But if you can just hold on to that self purpose, I feel like that really sets you up for good things and perspective. So
Yeah, I agree. Having a strong foundation of parents who are supportive of stuff and, confidence is so important because you see as an adult, there's so much stuff in your life, I feel like, that you are not confident about maybe, and you can really like track it down to your younger self, your inner child, as they say, of where it comes. And if you have that support, it makes it so much better because you're probably not struggling as much in the sense of like the people who are raising you are still proud and supportive of everything that you are and do. So
absolutely,
that's awesome.
yes,
It's great.
we're both very lucky.
Yes. So the Running Y Mom, we got to start with a little fitness. So besides yoga on the Delaware River, how do you stay active?
Yes, so I really, really enjoy activity, like physical activity, and that's kind of like my time for myself in my otherwise very busy life. With a job you belong to, the work, the clients, whatever it may be, as a parent, your kids, and a marriage to your spouse, and I'm very happy to be everything I can be to all those people. But it is nice to have that thing for yourself. And for me, it is fitness. I go to two different gyms in Newtown. I go to F45, which is functional 45. They're 45-minute classes, doing different kinds of mixture of cardio, strength, HIIT training, all of that. And so I go there, and then I also go to Orange Theory, so similar kind of instructor-led class. But what I like about both of those scenarios is that I do well getting that instruction because it kind of ensures that I'm making the most out of the time that I have, because it is a limited time. Like I don't have all the time in the world to work at my fitness and whatnot. So I like to get that in the morning, and really it sets me up for the day. It gets everything, all the endorphins flowing, and really wakes me up. I'm not a coffee drinker. That's my coffee in the
Oh my
morning.
gosh.
It gets me going and gets, everything flowing so that I can do all the things I need to do throughout the day and be everything I need to be for everybody else.
Yeah, it's so important as parents to set aside time for our fitness. And it does make us, like I say, there's 24 hours in the day. If you can set apart 1 hour for yourself and be everybody else's whatever you need for the rest of the day, that's just like that 1 hour makes the rest of the 23 hours a little bit more doable, I guess.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah, and I mean, beyond just the physical benefits, there is a huge, I think in some cases, more of a mental and emotional benefit too, of just doing that, knowing that. And at least with a class schedule, it's like scheduled into my life where I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I need the hour to myself, and here it is. I'm picking this class, and now I have that time.
We were just away. We were down the shore for a few days. So obviously, like, we did like a couple walks by the beach, but I'm like, all right, but the kids are napping now. And even we go to the NAC and they have kids club, and Willow loves it so much. She's like, can we go to kids club later? I'm like, yes, we can. And then I'll get my regular workout right back into
Yes.
it, which is nice. So what struggles do you find with such a busy life, staying in that routine?
I think the main thing is time. It's just making sure, because it's one thing to say I'm going to go at this time every day in the morning, but inevitably there is something that comes up here and there. And so then it's, okay, how do I reschedule this? How do I fit this in somewhere else? Can I sneak out at lunch to get it in quick? Do I go after work? but then there's this other thing that I usually have to do. So it's really just the gymnastics of scheduling that are sometimes it really presents the biggest struggle. But, as with anything, consistency is really the most important thing. And so anywhere you can keep to a schedule and have that structure, I think that's really beneficial to ensure that you're getting that time for yourself. But yeah, just as with everybody, like life is the struggle.
Yeah. It is. It is. I agree. I like that. The gymnastics of figuring it out, though. That's so true. That's what it is. You're like, maybe I can do that, bounce back
Yep.
there. And is there anything you wish you learned earlier in life about your fitness or nutritional health?
I think that I later in my life tapped into the competitive side of myself when it comes to fitness. And I say that to not mean that I'm out running races against people and whatnot. It's more so in a class like the ones I go to, there are other people there, and I'm not necessarily actively looking at what everyone else is doing. But, when there's, like, for example, at Orange Theory, they have a screen up there with everyone, the calories they've burned and whatnot. Uh, it does help motivate you a little bit. And sometimes that competition can just be with yourself too. Like, I can be on the treadmill and be like, okay, I'm at this speed, can I go up for the next minute? And then there's that part of you, it's like, I don't know. It's been a long workout already. And then the other part of you is like, you have to at least try. And then you do it and you're able to do it. And I think that's something that I didn't necessarily have when I was younger. I was more like, I would exercise, but was more lackadaisical about it. Where it's just like, you just do it. And once you do it and you did it for the time you said you do it and you're done. I find that it really helps me push myself, both, being in an environment with other people, exercising, as well as just that whole mental battle with yourself and getting yourself to really go to your furthest limit.
Yeah, the extrinsic motivation is something like when I'm, even when I'm on the treadmill at the gym, I'm like kind of peeking over, like, all right, what's that person doing? Okay, they're going faster than me. Let me rev it up a little bit or something like that.
100%.
And so you briefly said, mental health and physical fitness is so important. Do you have any specific thoughts about how their relationship is in your life or in general?
Yeah, I think that it's so funny. Like, the timing of this is perfect. Yesterday, I did not go to the gym in the morning, and I was just in a funk all day. I was like, what's going on here? Like, I couldn't understand. Like, my synapses in my brain weren't firing the way that they normally were. Everything just seemed harder. And I do feel like that's a huge thing again in my life that I need to have, not only for my physical health, but my mental health. And really the implications on my bodily function and my brain function and all of that. It's so intrinsically connected that I'm happy to know that about myself. And like yesterday was just a reminder of that, that, the balance of both your physical and mental health is so important and really will help you be a better version of yourself if you can have that balance.
And even just a little bit of movement is so much better than just nothing. And as I always say, if you can fit in 5 minutes or you can fit in 5 hours, I mean, I don't know how it's time for that, but just getting that little bit of movement is so important for your mental health.
Absolutely. 100%. Couldn't agree more. I wish I had just taken that 5 minutes, but of course, and then the perfect storm, we go down, I'm like, I have a little window of time now. And I went down to use the treadmill and then I couldn't get the treadmill to work. And I'm like,
oh, that always happens, right? You're like, I have this short amount of time and everything around it isn't working. Oh, all right. So let's get into parenthood. What is the thing that you were least prepared for in parenthood?
I think it's one of those things, especially at the beginning of parenthood, that you just never know until you're in it. The logistics of sleeping and your own self-care and balancing that with a newborn that is in need of constant care and prioritization. And of course, that's the way it needs to be. Like, it needs to be priority one to take care of that child because they are completely and totally helpless on their own. And so I think that was something that you just can't prepare for. Like people will tell you, that
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be difficult, but it's also one of those things where I reflect back on it, and it's almost like I'm an amnesiac with it. In that, like
Yeah.
I know I did it, I know I got through it, but I don't
Hmm.
remember what it's like. You just thankfully focus on those positive things, all the
Yeah.
things that were so beautiful and wonderful about that time in their lives. But
Yeah, I think it's like a part of nature where they're like, we're just gonna make you not remember this so you have more.
and then there's those little blips of memory, and you're like, I remember being the first night in the hospital and the
Yeah.
black lava flowing out of the children. And I was like, what
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were not prepared for
is
that. We're like, what the?
so it's like positive, positive, positive. But remember that horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's so funny. I actually also forgot about that
And
until you just said
happy
it. But
reminder.
it's
Yeah.
very so why don't you just tell us a little bit about your parenthood experience? Like tell us about your kids, your husband, what your guys' thoughts on like
Yeah.
adoption. Kind of just give us the big summary and then we'll go into more
So
specifics.
we always knew, it's funny, we talked about on our first date that we both wanted to be parents. And so that was
Hmm.
never a question. We always wanted, to have that as part of our journey. And, we talked about the different options that were out there, whether we did surrogacy or adoption, fostering, all of that. We found this agency in Vermont, and they specialized in placing children with like an expectant mother who decides ahead of time that she knows she cannot parent, and matching with adoptive parents so that they can have the basically the child's with you from the day they're born in many
Hmm.
cases. And so we really like this agency for a number of reasons, but one of them being that they did have a mixture of clientele in terms of same-sex couples as well as heterosexual couples. And so from that perspective, you always want to be in a situation where there's openness and acceptance to them. And
Hmm.
so we're very happy to have found that place. And uh, that kind of led us on a journey that lasted about like from inception of signing the paper saying we're going to work with this agency to actual placement, or even just matching. It was about a year and a half, 2 years. And in that time, we did things like creating a profile, basically your marketing materials for like what is going to go
Hmm.
out to the expectant mothers for them to see and potentially choose you. So that was a journey in itself. There's a couple times where we like had a match, but then it didn't necessarily pan out. Like either the mother changed her mind, decided not to do adoption, uh, whatever. There a couple different scenarios that came and went, but then had this scenario with the woman who would be the mother of our kids, and she was exposed to the agency through like a mutual friend who was also a lawyer who had done some adoption work for this agency. And the agency sent her a couple of profiles, like the like little printed materials. We were not one
Hmm.
of them that they sent. However, her mother went on to the website where they list all the parents and said, well, check out these guys. And so she really liked everything she read. And so we met them. And when I say them, it was the birth mother and her parents for lunch
Okay.
one day. It was, I think, June of 2015. So she was already pregnant with what would be our son. And so the agency has you set up that initial meeting so you can like get to know and see if it's a good fit. And I remember when we left, her mom came to us and said, remember this moment, because this is the moment
Oh,
that, you guys officially are going to become parents, because
whew.
she was all in, they were all in, and they, funny enough, adopted her and her brother. So her parents,
Oh,
yes, went
wow.
through this whole experience as well. And so it gave them a lot of really good insight as to what we were feeling from an emotional perspective.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I have the chills. That's so like such a cool
Yes, 100%.
experience.
We were very, very lucky on so many counts, and all the pieces really fell into place with our adoption journey. And so for the next couple months, we would go spend, like, she was in upstate New York. We would come up and visit with her. We would, do activities together just to get to know her. But one thing obviously was that we wanted to know her really well because we wanted to have an open adoption. And that was something that they talked to us about at the agency, that, there's
Mm-hmm.
option for open or closed. And what we had said is that we wanted to do an open adoption because our children would have two fathers and we wanted them to know their
Mm-hmm.
mother. Because if ever there was a
Yeah.
question at school from another kid, where's your mom? Why don't you have a mom? They would always be able to say, we do have a mom. She just doesn't live with us. And we just felt like that would be a really healthy, positive thing for them throughout their lives,
For
especially with,
sure.
the way kids, not, I don't want to say the kids are intrinsically like vicious or mean, but they're curious. They see something that's different, they're going to have
Right.
questions, and you don't want your child to not be kind of prepared
Mm-hmm.
for that conversation, whatever it may
Mm-hmm.
be. And so that was a big reason why we really wanted to do an open adoption. Now, funny enough, on the other side, their birth mom chose us because she wanted to be the only mom. And so that was one of the main
Uh,
reasons she wanted to, work with the same sex.
yeah.
So that
Wow.
all worked out really well. And then come September, we got the call. She was in labor. And so we drove up to Albany, which is where she delivered. And they were very gracious there at the hospital. They had extra room in the maternity ward. So the birth mom was in the next room. They had a room that we could stay. And so our son was there with us that first day, that first night. So we
Wow.
had the whole experience from the black lava and all
From
that,
the
all
get-go.
the details.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he's been with us since day one. And then with the way that the adoption works, there's, a period of time where she had 30 days to change her mind, which is, as the adopted parents, you're like, oh my gosh, this is like going to be the longest 30 days.
Yeah.
And
For
uh,
sure.
she said, you don't have to worry. She said, I'm not, I'm very happy with my decision. And then it all was fine. But it is, it was fully, legally, emotionally her prerogative to change her mind. But it all
Right.
worked out. And then the adoption itself was legally finalized. That takes a little bit of time by December. So we went,
Mm-hmm.
back to New York to do all of that and like at a courthouse and whatnot, have our picture with the judge, all the fun
Yeah.
keepsake stuff. So that's how we got our son, and so that led us to, open adoption. We're seeing her, whether it's via FaceTime, because there was a distance. At that point, we were living in New Jersey, but she was in upstate New York, so it's still a couple hours. But we use FaceTime to stay in touch with her and her parents, who have been wonderful throughout this whole journey and have a wonderful relationship with our kids and with us. And so stayed in touch with her, uh, saw her a couple times. Actually, we were down in Orlando that following year, and she was living in Florida at that time. And so we met up with her, and, we are just having like these opportunities and finding them to all be together. And then that at beginning of that next year, she reached out and she said, would you ever want to adopt another child from me? Because we had talked to her we were very honest with her. We're like, yeah, we absolutely wanted to do adoption. We want to have more kids. We would be open to adoption or surrogacy. And so she's like, I know you were considering surrogacy, but would you ever want to adopt, from me again? We said, absolutely, of course, because of all the things, all the wonderful journey that we had thus
Right.
far, the relationship we had with her parents. And she said, because I'm pregnant. And we said, that's wonderful. And so because we already had that standing relationship, we actually did that adoption privately. So we worked with the same lawyer that we worked with for our son, but we just didn't need to go through the agency because, kind of the purpose that they serve, we didn't necessarily need them this time around. And so
Right.
we worked with the lawyers and whatnot, and same kind of deal. We got the call in August, and went up there, and same thing. They were able to have a room for us. We had our daughter there with us that first night, had that whole journey, and kind of same thing finalized a couple months later. And so, yes, they are biologically half siblings, have the same mother. They have different birth fathers, but ultimately they have a loving, wonderful family on all, and from my family to my husband's, and also with their birth mom, which is, we say, the more grandparents, the better. The more love, the
For
better.
sure.
So, and we have
Yeah.
continued to have that great relationship
Wow.
with her and her parents. And they were just here actually the end of June. They came and stayed over, and so the kids got to have some quality time with them, and so it's just, we're very blessed to have this wonderful scenario that has kind of come to us, not by any means of us
Yeah.
earning it, because we just have been very lucky and blessed.
Wow. It is like
Yes.
total modern family of just like be blended, everything. So now when you do open adoption, obviously the mother consents to that. Like what about the father? Is he just like kind of signs his
Yes.
rights
So it's
away
it's a
or
unique situation, I guess, in that it really depends. In both
Mhm.
cases, the birth fathers were, she notified them, and they were not interested in parenting this child. And so,
Mhm.
they, from a legal perspective, they've been notified, and they are basically absolve themselves of any kind of parental rights. So that was a
Mhm.
non-issue in both cases because of that situation. There are times where it is a little more complex, where if the father is
Okay.
involved, it could be like a situation if like they would visit with them, like especially if they were a couple, like that would potentially be
Right.
something where they would visit with both her and the birth father. But
Mhm.
she was young in both cases, and like that was not the situation. So that hasn't come into play at
Yeah.
all. Now we know who their birth fathers are just by name, like, so, like if and when there comes a time where they would want to know, we can, like, we're very forward with them in terms of transparency. We talk about, there's no surprise, they know they're adopted. We've talked about this at a very early
Right.
age, and so it's good to not only have them know that, but also, when the time comes, let them know, like, that if they are interested in learning more about the other half of their genetic makeup, that opportunity exists. You have no way of knowing how the birth fathers would be, how open they'd be to that, but at least that we have the information. It's not something they need to go search for.
That's so great that you guys are so forward with that, just to make it just a part of their life, and the reality of one
Hmm.
day they might ask, and that would be something that they would feel
Right.
comfortable coming to you with. So I know, like, for us, we have two kids, and their age gap is kind of like what we wanted, but like how about you guys? Like, you guys, were you prepared, ready for a second kid, or you kind of just were like, you know I don't know, like, it's such an interesting thing where you're just like,
Right.
okay, cool,
I
well,
think it was one of those
we're
things
ready.
where we're like, how do you say no to this perfect scenario of
Right,
having two kids who are siblings?
right.
And we never really necessarily talked about like how long in between, but we just always knew we wanted more. And so I think inherently, by
Hmm.
not defining what our expectations were, we were open to whatever happened when it happened. And so we have a
Right.
perfect gap that that it's almost a
Hmm.
full 2 years. uh, and
Hmm.
so they have, I think, enough space between them that they're not like at each other's heel, but at each other's throats
Hmm.
or whatever, in terms of like if you're really close in age. But it is nice that they are close they're going to go through school a year apart, just the way that like the cutoff happened,
Yeah.
because he's September and she's
Mhm.
August. He is old for his grade and she's
Gonna
young
be
for hers,
old.
but they'll
Yeah.
go through school. They just finished first grade, our son, in kindergarten, our daughter. So they'll continue through, which just means that we'll have them in college for the years.
College at the
But
same
you know,
time.
those are things that they'll work hard.
Yeah. That's like the way that our kids are 18 months apart, but Willow is November and Parker is June, so
Okay.
they'll be 1 grade apart because of the
Yes.
way that their birthdays are too. So that's what we talk about too. We're like, okay, this is gonna
Uh-huh.
be a
Yep.
lot. But it'll
If
work out,
nothing
right?
else, I'm a writer by trade, so I can help them with their college essays. So there you go.
Oh, there you go. Yes. And they'll have, like really
Yes.
unique stories that they can share, and really awesome experience of like world views of just being brought up in such an awesome environment. So with the open adoption, do you have like specific times that you want to like make an effort to see do you see the grandparents most, or do
Yeah,
you
so
see
I'd
the mom a
say
lot, or?
it pretty usually it ends up working out that it all happens at the same time. Now, like this past
Mhm.
I guess it was uh June. Yeah, it was June. So earlier in the month, we had to travel up into the New England area for a family wedding. And so on the way home, we stopped and saw
Mhm.
uh, the, their birth mom's parents, their grandparents, on the way home. And so that was just them. And that just happened to be something that worked out. But usually it's all just
Mhm.
seeing everyone together. And we also have them, like we had them here in June. Uh, we invite
Mhm.
them to their birthday parties. So usually it ends up being, 2 to 3 times a year that like we'll actually be in the same physical place. But then our daughter
Mhm.
FaceTimes with her mom's mom almost every day. She's big into
Aw.
FaceTiming, and like she'll come home from
Yeah.
school or camp or whatever, and she'll call her and she'll say, "Can you play?" And so then they'll like
Aw.
she sets up the tablet and has her toys out, and they play like babies or school or whatever it may be, and
Oh my
so they
gosh.
Grace has, yeah. So in terms of contact, Grace is in regular contact with that grandmother for sure. But yeah, so it's not anything set in terms of what,
Right.
like, there's no have to, which I think is nice, because you want it to feel like you want the relationship to feel organic, and like we haven't had any issues
Yeah.
with it whatsoever in terms of there's never a time where it's not okay for us all to be together, because that's how
Yeah.
great the whole scenario is for us.
That's amazing. Wow. I'm just like blown away by how like
Hmm.
blessed that everyone is in that with the family dynamics, because some people don't even have like
Right.
one set of grandparents, and your kids have three, which is just they're very grandparents really are. We say we would not survive parenthood
Yeah.
without both of our parents, both sets of grandparents. Like it just makes
100%.
life so much better. And
Yeah,
so if we had
exactly.
another set,
Additional
that
support,
the
you can
more.
never turn that.
Yeah, yeah.
I know I mentioned it before, but we've been very honest with them about uh, the adoption stuff, and that's everyone's decision on how they want to handle that. Uh, for us, we wanted to
Hmm.
be upfront about it, especially since it wouldn't take them long to figure out that something was a little bit different than the rest of their friends. Uh,
Yeah.
but we always say the reason you're with us is because your mom loved you so much, but knew she couldn't take care of you the way that she would want to, and we wanted you to be a part of our lives so bad. You were already our family even before you were born.
Right.
That you know
Yeah.
your mom is there, she loves you, but then just to avoid any kind of confusion, we do talk about like, but ultimately we are your parents. You you grew in
Right.
mom's belly, and she loves you very much, but you want to be, because you have to be careful about like that delineation too. And it's
Right.
it's very much like a unique lexicon that you need to really navigate in a careful way. But
Right. Yeah, that was going to be that was what I was going to kind of ask next. Like, yeah, what if, how you go about that of like,
right.
she's here, but
Exactly. Yes.
we're
So that,
here,
she'll always be your mom, but we will always be your parents. And so we
Hmm.
took care of you when you were a baby. We raised you. We, make sure you're safe and happy and healthy. That's our jobs as your parents. And, to love you unconditionally. And we will always be that and always do that for you. It doesn't matter where you came from, because you're where you belong
Hmm.
with us.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. I love that. And so to kind of go into the next, you are adoption, same sex, parenting. Well, I guess first of all, do your kids both call you
So,
dad?
so
Is
it's,
there the
right.
same?
It's in,
How do you answer that? How
yeah.
do you
So
say,
it's
dad,
interesting.
who
Like since
answers?
they were little, uh, they call they called me Dada and called my husband Daddy, and then now they also call him Dad sometimes. So he's Dad, Daddy, and I'm Dada. But then
Hmm.
we're trying to figure out at what point is it weird for like a 15-year-old boy to call his father Dada. So at
Yeah.
what point do we need to like revisit the naming convention for the two of us? So what we talked about is
Yeah.
probably I'll become Dad and he'll be Daddy, or but the thing is, kids are
Yeah.
smart. Kids know what they kind of will do what they want to do, and they'll figure out, and they might just start calling us
Right.
both Dad, and we'll be, we, as much as
Right.
like we can guide like however we kind of want things to go. I'm also of the mind of just let them kind of do it too. Let them figure out what works for them, and they can
Yeah.
call me whatever they want. But I had to be careful with that because my daughter
Yeah.
will start calling me like poo poo monkey or something.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's it's like, I mean, not the same as obviously grandparents, but grandparents have like this, they want to be called this. My father-in-law wanted to be called Papa, and my mother-in-law is Grammy. And I don't know if it's because the Y at the end, but my daughter just all of a sudden started calling him Poppy. Like nobody told her to say that, and so now he's Poppy. So it's like maybe there's a name that you don't
Exactly. Right.
know is
Exactly.
coming
Just hopefully
in
not poo poo
regards
monkey.
to that. Yeah. So how has your experience in a same-sex marriage as a parent like shaped your perspective on
Well, I
family and
think
parenthood?
you know bringing the best of my childhood to it has been a big thing for me as a parent. Is like I had that blessing of a great childhood, and I really wanted to share that with my children. And so that's always been part of the reason why I really wanted to be a parent. I think, the sexual orientation part of it doesn't really come into play in any way. In that I would say that our family is very different from a family that has a mom and a dad, in that it's really about that
Hmm.
partnership with your spouse and working together to
Hmm.
create the childhood that you both want your child to have. And so in
Right.
terms of navigating any kind of other social aspects, we are lucky to live where we live in a town like New Hope, where it's,
Hmm. Yeah.
you're not going to see the kind of, uh, there's a lot of acceptance. You're not going to see the judgment as much there. And, it is a reality that there are places where that would not be the case. And there will be probably scenarios our children will face in the future where that is, they might get some questions, and some people might not have nice things to say. And so that's why, again, from the very beginning of our conversation here, like the foundational stuff, giving them all the tools that they need to navigate those situations, because we don't want them to be ill
Hmm.
prepared for the realities of the world, and we don't want to pretend that
Yeah.
there aren't going to be people who have questions about their family structure. But also really wanting them to know that it doesn't ultimately matter what other people think, because they are loved and supported and have this great home base, that it doesn't matter what gender their parents are. They have two parents that love and support and will do anything for them.
Yeah, which I mean, that's just a massive step ahead of so many in general, whether it's, same sex or not same sex marriage. Like having two supportive parents to guide you is just, I really don't know how single parents do it. After having kids, I'm like, I have, I don't know how do you even like figure out that and give enough time to your kids um, like a lot of times with my husband's work schedule, I am like flying solo, which is fine. I'm used to that. But like, obviously, he is an amazing father to them and always there. And, as soon as he's off the clock, he's like involved. But I'm like, if I had to do this by myself all the time, like, geez, this
Forget
would
about that hour
not
workout
be as
every day.
fun. Yeah, no, that would not be. Yeah, that would not be happening. But yeah, so that's I mean, yeah, they're so lucky to have that. And as like New Hope, I is just you're so lucky to be in that. But also, not to say that it is a bubble, but like it is a little bit of a unique area where it's just the best inclusivity and everything. And so when they step out of that, like, what do they experience, which is important for you to have that, which is amazing to be so forward thinking as well. So have they recognized
Yeah.
having two dads
Oh
is
yeah.
different
But I
or
mean, they almost
okay?
wear it like a badge of pride, like something that's unique to them. Like they
Yeah.
are very like open about it,
Yeah.
talking about it. Like just this week, I picked my daughter up at camp, and she was talking about how yeah, I get to have two dads, and so it's nothing that they
Yeah.
are ashamed of, which I'm very glad. But I think that it has a lot to do with the fact that we have been very open about it and never pretended to be anything that we aren't
Hmm.
with them, and so they don't pretend to be anything they're not with other kids. And like they'll
Yeah.
like my
Yeah.
son was doing these like kind of, it was almost like kids CrossFit classes or whatever, and part of it is like they get up and do these
Ooh,
like
that's cool.
affirmations, and they get up and talk about things that they're thankful for. And he got up on that platform and he just proudly said, I am thankful for my two dads. And it's just so from that perspective, I'm glad that they have that feeling of pride in knowing that like they're different. Their family might be a little different from everyone else's, but it's nothing that they need to hide. It's something it's just who
Right.
they are and who their family is.
Right. Did you look into any resources or support in the area to think about, you guys are so forward thinking. Was there any input from outside resources to help you guys like navigate that part of it? Or you're just kind of doing it, I mean, I know there's like so many books and stuff you can read, but nothing really prepares you
Yeah,
for
I
any
mean,
anything.
like nothing specific, I would say, in terms of literature. Just going back to foundation of love and support, and like I think that has really just guided
Hmm.
a lot of our parenting decisions. And also, your number one, like as we talked about, your number one best resource is the grandparents, and going to them and talking
Yeah.
about like getting sounding boards, basically, about this is what I'm saying, how's this, does this feel like it's the right thing to say? And they've been great with that. My mom's like my free therapy, you know.
That's what moms are for sometimes. I feel the same about mine. It's like, yeah, you're like, I don't know what what to do. How did you do this? Which
Hmm.
is the way of the world, I guess. That's how we learned
Yep.
before the internet or, books. We just had to find out
All
from
right.
our families
And
how
there's
they did
so
it,
many things
and the
that like
traditions and
you can
everything.
read so much literature on how to set your child up for success and all of these things. But when it comes down to it, like you said before, there was internet, before there's books about it, like people survived, kids grew to adults and flourished. And so, your kids, especially like, for example, when people worry about, oh, my kids only eat mac and cheese and saltine crackers, and it's like understandable that you want them to like grow their palate, but you don't know a lot of like 55-year-old men in a business dinner who are ordering the mac and cheese and saltines off the menu. You know what I mean? It all works out. Eventually they
Yeah,
get
you're
there.
right. Yeah, it's like the sleep and the eating is such a stressor for parents. And I feel as though I'm kind of the same. I'm like,
Mhm.
if they're hungry, they're gonna eat. Like, I don't know. Although we do try, like, we took our son to Guru's in Newtown on Sundays. My
Uh-huh.
daughter was staying at my parents' house for a sleepover. And I'm like, let's just like see
Yeah.
if he likes Indian. We got everything mild. And he ate the whole thing up. But then like
Uh-huh.
other days he won't eat anything. He won't eat anything at his table. And I'm like, whatever. I don't know. We have the goldfish here, or you can have the Indian food. Let's
Right,
just like pick our
exactly.
battles one day at a
And they
time.
will be fine. They will not starve.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And eventually they'll sleep too.
Right, exactly. They'll just conk
They
out
have
in the
to,
middle
right?
of like their painting or Play-Doh or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so what's like one piece of advice that you would give parents who are considering maybe
I would
adoption
say, obviously,
in their future?
educate yourself, like read up about it. If you can, there are resources online, like in terms of organizations, but also, just certain like Facebook groups, message boards, or whatever, you can like connect with other people, because I think so much of it is just you want to just talk to another human being about their experience, because that gives you
Right.
sometimes a lot more meaningful information than if you just read something that was written on a
Hmm.
website. And a couple, like I'd say more than 3 or 4 times, people have reached out to us to ask the questions, like that were connected to us by another friend who was talking to their friend, and they said, oh, well, I know somebody who's gone through this process. And so we're always happy to be that person to other people who are considering the adoption process, whether they are a same-sex couple
Right.
or a heterosexual couple. So it's not. I think the experience of adoption is universal in terms of like it's a unique journey for everybody, but some of the logistical things are pretty universal.
Right.
So I would say just find the people that can, whether it's strangers online that you can connect with through the internet, or someone through a connection, because that's going to give you, I think, the best kind of insight on what to expect and like what is right for you. And maybe you'll determine, maybe adoption is not right for me. Maybe I want to do surrogacy. Maybe I want to do fostering. There's so many ways to become
Hmm.
a parent, but if you want that for your life, and that's something that you're meant to be, like you can make it happen for yourself. But just get informed however you see fit.
Yeah. I was thinking about that today because about if that's what you want, you'll be able to like figure it out for parenthood. And there's so many people I feel like that are on the fence about it, or like, I don't know how I would be able to become a parent or any of that. And I'm like, it's so much better than you can kind of course, it's harder than you can imagine, but it's also, we were in the car today coming home from like our breakfast, and Do Re Mi from The Sound of Music comes on, and my daughter's like singing it in the back, and all of a sudden I started getting like teary eyed, and I'm like, this is something that like I liked when I was little, and now like my 2 year old is just singing in the back, and I felt like it just brought on such like a, I don't know. There's so many. The
Oh
little
my
people
gosh,
are
yeah,
so
absolutely.
fun and
Right. and
and pure,
and
which
just
is
like
like the
look
best
to you
thing. They
as
have
like
no clue.
basically a celebrity, and like are just in awe of all you are as their
Yes.
parent. And so it's a lot of power and a lot of responsibility to like make sure you're doing the right thing with
Yeah.
that influence that you have.
The right thing.
But I think Do Re Mi is a great place to start.
Yeah. Um, Oh my gosh, yeah, she's it's so cute because she's just started like singing the
Mhm.
songs that she's been listening to on repeat over and over again, like within the last couple weeks, and her little like tiny voice. I'm like,
I know.
this is like the best thing. Who would have thought that this is like one of the best
And
things is to hear
you're
your
driving,
kids
so you
sing? I
can't
don't
do it.
know.
But
It's
like,
like
all you want to
funny.
do is like pull over and like film it. So you don't.
Yeah, video it. I know. I did this morning. She was singing to the Coco soundtrack, and I'm like, "Oh my god, get my phone out!" Like you're just like singing while you know. But that's fun. So, what's one piece of advice in
I
general that you
think
would give other
just
parents?
stay connected to your, partner, your spouse, whoever, your co-parent, and make sure that you're on the same page when it comes to pretty much everything, because you are a united front in this parenting journey. And so, in order to navigate it successfully and be the best parents you can be for your children, I think it's really important to communicate and know kind of that you are looking at things from the same perspective. And, undoubtedly, you both have your children's best interest at heart. And so it's really just about making sure that
Mm-hmm.
you are not only on the same page, but you're also taking care of each other, because that's,
Mm-hmm.
your children aren't in a place to take care of you. They need you to take care of them. And so you really do need that partner to keep an eye not only on the kids with you, but also keep an eye on you, like somebody that's looking out and making sure you're okay throughout the whole thing, and making sure that you're getting the time you need.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to step away for whatever reason, then that can keep, take the wheel and keep driving that car, so that nothing goes off the rails. But also, that recognizing that we're all human beings and we need to sometimes decompress and de-stress and step away from whatever it may be, and know that you'll be there to do the same thing for them when it's your turn. So I think just
Mm-hmm.
keeping that bond strong, and knowing that you have a partner that you can trust with your well-being as well as your children is a huge thing.
That's awesome. I love that. So yeah, partner
Yeah,
support is
yeah,
truly,
absolutely.
again, besides
I
grandparents,
mean,
the
and
other
literally,
thing
they say
that
it takes a
gets
village,
you
but
through
like,
parenthood.
out for that village, because we need
It
it.
does, yeah. Yeah, we really do. I know we're always like so lucky that we have that as well, and you guys are so lucky as well to have it. All right. Well, I think that we can end it right there. That's the perfect advice to end this on. And this is going to wrap up another episode of The Running Wine Mom. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to Jordan for sharing his incredible journey of love, acceptance, and parenthood with us today. His story serves as a powerful reminder that family is built on love, connection, and the willingness to embrace unique paths to parenthood. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share with your friends, subscribe to the Running Wine Mom podcast, and leave a review. You can also follow along on Instagram at the Running Wine Mom _. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, and keep embracing the joy of parenthood. Usually I end on motherhood, but we got to say parenthood today. So
Of
thank
course.
you,
Thank you very much,
Jordan, for
Samantha. It's been
coming.
a
Thank you
pleasure.
so much. This was awesome. Thank you. All right. Cheers, everyone, and I will be back next Tuesday.